And you said about 5 a.m. the baby's up?
Yeah, the baby woke up and she was crying, so I woke up and I was really surprised that Mengqi wasn't there.
Rockbridge Memorial State Park is a place of beauty. Nestled in the heart of Missouri, it's a stretch of wilderness where nature shows both its gentle and untamed sides. The park's crown jewel is its namesake Rockbridge, a towering natural limestone arch carved over thousands of years by water pressing through the stone. Around it, the land unfolds like a labyrinth. More than 2,200 acres of dense hardwood forest, winding trails, sinkholes, caves, and the famous Devil's Icebox, a cavern where underground streams snake through Missouri's ancient karst landscape. In early spring, when the frost finally loosens its grip, the forest floor awakens. Wildflowers dot the trails with colour, birds return, filling the canopy with songs. On the morning of March 15th, 2020, a man named Stephen Roberts decided to take advantage of the good weather. He laced up his hiking boots and headed out to the trails at Rockbridge Memorial. The forest was alive around him. The path was familiar, but as he walked, something unusual caught his attention. Just beyond the tree line, something sharp and rectangular broke the natural shape of bank and leaves. Curiosity tugged at him. He stepped off the trail and made his way through the undergrowth. But when he drew closer, he froze. On the ground, half covered by foliage, was a human skull. Mengqi Ji Elledge was born on the 18th of April 1991 in China during the nation's strict one-child policy. Her parents, Qi Ren and Shaolin Ji, had only ever planned for one child, and Mengqi was their everything. Her mother would later recall, "We only ever wanted one child. We wanted to give all of our love to this child." Mengqi was the kind of daughter that most parents dreamed of. She was gentle, well-behaved, but also lively and curious. Her parents placed a strong emphasis on education, and from an early age, Mengqi thrived. By the time she was 5, she was already practicing calligraphy and painting, carefully guided by her parents' belief in cultivating hobbies. At 7, she added swimming and ping pong to her routine. English tutoring followed soon after, and by the time she was 10, she had taken up the guitar. Photography was another passion, one her father nurtured by making sure she always had the best cameras. But painting remained her truest love. Her mother remembered proudly, "We thought that the development of hobbies was important for the growth of Mengqi." It was clear from the start that Mengqi was remarkable. In 2009, she was accepted into the prestigious East China University of Science and Technology in Shanghai. 3 years later, an opportunity presented itself that would change the course of her life forever. She was accepted into an exchange program in the United States and enrolled at the University of Missouri. There, Mengqi completed her undergraduate studies and went on to earn a master's degree in mechanical and aerospace engineering. She excelled to the point that one of her professors, who was impressed by her intelligence and dedication, hired her straight out of school. The company was a biomaterials firm called Nanova, and it was there, within the sterile technical halls of science and innovation, that Mengqi met Joseph Elledge. Joseph had grown up in Kansas City and was studying engineering at the same university. At Nanova, Mengqi was technically his supervisor, but soon enough professional boundaries blurred and the two started dating. Her friend Shui Jiang remembered. She didn't know why, but she was crazy about Joe. A year and a half into their relationship, Joseph proposed while they were hiking at Rockbridge Memorial State Park. 2 weeks later, Mengqi and Joseph were married. It was a whirlwind. Love was part of it, certainly, but so too was circumstances. Mengqi's visa was set to expire, and marriage meant that she could stay in the United States and stay with Joseph. The couple moved into an apartment on Eastwood Drive. Just months into the marriage, Mengqi was offered a big job opportunity. It could have been a pivotal moment in her career, but then came unexpected news. She was pregnant. At that time, Mongchi was the sole breadwinner. Joseph had quit his job to finish school, and he was a senior mechanical engineering student with no steady income. But the decision was made. Mengqi would turn down the job and become a stay-at-home mother. In October of 2018, their daughter, Anna, was born. In Chinese tradition, the first 100 days after a baby's birth are a sacred period. It's customary for the grandparents to come and stay, helping to care for both mother and child, ensuring rest, protection, and a smooth transition into new life. True to tradition, Mengqi's parents flew in from China to help their daughter and meet their granddaughter. For a time, life seemed stable, but beneath the surface, cracks were beginning to form. Mongchi and Joseph had once dreamed of building a big family together. They spoke of 3, maybe even 5 children, and imagined raising them in a house that blended both American and Chinese traditions. It was the kind of vision that many young couples share, a house filled with laughter, a mix of cultures, and the promise of a future built together. But after their daughter Anna was born, things began to shift. Mongchi loved her baby deeply, but the ache of homesickness grew stronger, especially after her parents returned to China. The apartment that had once felt like a new beginning now seemed almost isolating. Her lifeline to home became her daily phone call with her mother, Ren. Every day without fail they spoke, sharing the ups and downs of motherhood, the quiet frustrations, and the joy of watching Anna grow. But then on the 9th of October 2019, the phone never rang. At first, Ren tried to brush away her unease. Maybe Mongchi was tired. Maybe she was busy. But when hours passed with no word, she began to call again and again. Her daughter never picked up. The next day, silence continued. Ren reached out to Joseph directly, calling and texting, but he didn't respond either. Panic began to settle in. Desperate, she asked one of Mengqi's friends to check on her. When that friend arrived at the Eastwood Drive apartment, Joseph was there, alone with Anna. Mongchi was nowhere to be found. Joseph told the friend that when he woke up on the morning of the 9th of October, his wife was simply gone. Despite his wife being missing, Joseph's demeanour was strange. Calm, detached, even nonchalant. Ren confronted him over a video call, demanding he take action. She urged him to report her daughter missing. Joseph sent a few casual texts to friends asking if they had seen Mongchi. Eventually, he phoned 311, the non-emergency line, to report his wife missing.
It was yesterday morning. I just woke up and she was gone. She wasn't here. The night before, I went to sleep with her at the same, we slept at the same time, but it was just the next morning she was gone. And she left her wedding ring, and she left her phone, and her car with her keys. So I think she pretty much took anything, or she didn't take anything except her purse.
After making the missing persons report, detectives arrived at Joseph and Mengqi's apartment. When they sat down with Joseph after the report, they asked him to explain what had happened. Joseph's story went like this. On the evening of October 8th, Mengqi had gone to bed. Joseph stayed up in the living room, watching YouTube videos and playing video games. At around 11:30 p.m, he finally joined her. She was in bed when he fell asleep, he said. At 5 a.m, their daughter Anna's cries woke him. He rolled over and noticed that Mengqi was no longer in bed. She wasn't in the apartment either. Her keys were there, her phone was there, but Joseph didn't look for her. Instead, he climbed back into bed and fell asleep again. 3 hours later, Anna's cries woke him up once more. This time, Joseph said he got up and fed her. He said it was the first time he had ever fed his daughter himself. Mongchi had been breastfeeding, although she sometimes left bottles of expressed milk. Joseph explained that he simply mimicked what he had seen his wife do.
And you said about 5 a.m. the baby's up?
Yeah, the baby woke up, and she was crying, so I woke up, and I was really surprised that Mongchi wasn't there. And then I went to get Anna. I kind of thought that Mongchi might be in the room with Anna. But she wasn't, and after I put Anna down to sleep, I looked all over the place looking for Mongchi, and she wasn't there, and her purse was gone.
So the only thing she took was purse. What kind of purse she have?
It's just a fabric purse. It has
What color?
Black is the base color, and it has like white stars, and inside the star it actually has red stripes, and I think it has like a little blue corner. Almost like an American flag.
So that's all she took was her purse?
Yeah.
All right, and you said a set of shoes?
Yeah. I noticed her black Nikes are missing, so I guess she must be wearing those.
It was only then that Joseph noticed that Mongchi's car was still parked outside. Even so, he didn't search, he didn't call friends, and he didn't alert police. He said he thought that Mongchi might have gone on an errand, or perhaps he speculated that she had even left him for another man. According to Joseph, while combing through her laptop after she vanished, he found journal entries in which she admitted to having an emotional affair with someone back in China.
There is, I actually found this earlier. There's this, it's like a journal type of document. It's just a Word file. And it talks about her having, like, some secret love. She mentioned this guy's name, and actually it turns out it's this guy right here. And I just messaged him earlier, and he responded to me, but I think he's in China right now. But anyway, I think this is her secret love or something. Probably
back in China?
I suppose. I think he was here though, because he says, "I'll be back in Shanghai tomorrow. I'll be busy. I'll be in Shanghai for the next week, or for the next few days. I'll be out of time." And I don't know when that was. It just says 10:33 a.m.
He recalled one line in particular, which read, "It's sad, though, that I have no interest in my husband."
But that she's married and she has a baby, and so she has to stop, like, doing this.
Messaging him.
I think, yeah. I don't know if she's seen this guy, but...
Right, so she might not even have met this dude, is what you're thinking.
Well, I don't know. I kind of think that she has, because like I said, that I think there's been about 4 times where she's gone out, and she's been out for like an unreasonably long time. Yeah, pretty much. And then she always gives some weird excuse. The weirdest time was she went out, she was walking out the door, and I asked her where she was going, and she said that she has to get something from her car. And it was about 45 minutes later, she came back with a spoon that was in her car for like probably 2 years. I remember the spoon. Yeah, and she came back with that spoon.
For detectives, none of this sat right. It was highly unusual for her husband to wait so long before reporting his wife missing. They began to press harder. Had there been an argument before she disappeared? Joseph claimed no. Then, almost as an afterthought, he admitted they had what he described as a small fight about a week earlier. Nothing serious, he insisted, but he went on to paint a picture of a strained marriage. Intimacy had waned. Mongchi, he said, had become withdrawn. He admitted that it left him frustrated. The night before she disappeared, Joseph described giving her a massage. He told detectives, "I was going kind of slow. I was trying to drag it out because I wanted to extend the amount of time that we were together doing something." He said that Mongchi seemed tense. She then told him she needed to be somewhere in the morning. Curious, Joseph pressed her, asking 3 separate times who she was meeting. Her response each time was the same: me. She wouldn't elaborate. What Joseph did the next day, the day he discovered his wife missing, only deepened detective suspicions. Instead of searching for Mongchi, he packed Anna into the car and took 2 long drives in Mongchi's vehicle. He wasn't looking for his wife, he said. He was looking for new hiking trails. He said to investigators, "There's this big area that's all green on Google Maps, and so I wanted to go and see if there were walking paths back there." His route wandered through Ashland, then back and forth to Guthrie, before heading towards Columbia and Rockport. By his own account, he drove around aimlessly until around 10 p.m. Detective John Voss asked the obvious question. Did you lock your door when you left the apartment? You've got her keys in her car, her phone's in the house. She can't even call anybody. Joseph seemed caught off guard. He replied, "Yeah, I don't know." Police quickly went public with news of Mengqi's disappearance, appealing to the community for help. Missing person posters were circulated with her description: a young Chinese woman with brown eyes and shoulder-length black hair, often worn in a neat bun. She stood somewhere between 5'1" and 5'3", with both ears pierced. At first, investigators considered the possibility that Joseph's claim might be true, that Mongchi had left him for another man, perhaps even returned to China. But that theory crumbled almost immediately. All of her essentials were still in the apartment. Her phone, her iPad, her passport, even her clothing. Everything she would have needed to leave had simply been left behind. It was impossible to believe she had gone very far without them. And more importantly, Mengqi's 1-year-old daughter, Anna, was still at home. Those who knew her best said that Anna was her entire world. The idea that she would abandon her child was unthinkable. As the search intensified, Joseph Elledge made his first public appearance. He sat down with CBS affiliate KRCG and gave his version of events.
Talk to me about Mengqi. Is that Mengqi? That's how you pronounce her name.
It's actually Mengqi, and it has tone to it. It's Mengqi.
Looking subdued, he told the reporter he believed that Mengqi had left him for another man.
What do you think about the fact that she left behind her wallet and everything? Not her wallet, her passport and her phone.
So that stuff is very weird to me. I know she was talking to somebody else on the side, and I didn't know that until after she had left. But whatever she's doing, I just hope she's safe, and I really hope that she can, find herself and come back to me and Anna, and we can just have a big long talk, and that's all we need. But we can work things out. I think she's just confused and maybe scared, and I don't know if she felt alone, but I just really want her to come back, and it does worry me that she doesn't have any of that stuff. I just hope that she's safe. I hope that she's at least with somebody who cares for her, enough to keep her safe. And
he came across as awkward, even smiling several times. He described her as a doting mother, but quickly turned the focus back to their marital problems.
I have absolutely no idea where she might be. It's just all so strange. She just disappeared. I don't know. I just really don't know. She hasn't contacted anybody. She talked to her mom, I think, probably 2 or 3 times every single day, and the fact that she hasn't heard from her really worries me. It's very surprising. It's just hard to think about what's going on.
To many, Joseph sounded like a husband, grasping for answers. But to detectives, his behaviour seemed almost rehearsed, and his words raised more questions than they answered. Behind the scenes, suspicion was already turning squarely in Joseph's direction. The first red flag was how little concern he seemed to show for his wife's disappearance. Detectives discovered that on the 9th of October, the very morning he claimed to have found her missing, Joseph texted his mother a birthday greeting. In that message, he never mentioned that his wife was missing. It wasn't until the following day that he casually told her over text. That same morning, Joseph also messaged a classmate, saying he wouldn't be at school to work on a project. He offered no explanation. The next day, he followed up with another text. "I'm kind of stuck at home and busy with my daughter." Again, not a single mention of his wife being missing. To investigators, it was baffling. A spouse disappearing would normally spark panic. Phone calls, questions, frantic searches. but Joseph behaved as if nothing had changed at all. He later told detectives he avoided thinking about it because he had classwork to focus on. This was his last semester of school, he explained, and he wanted to give attention to that and to his daughter Anna. The explanation rang hollow. Detectives dug deeper. They learned that Mongchi's marriage was far from happy. Friends and acquaintances painted a picture of a relationship that was weighed down by resentment, loneliness, and cultural clashes. One interview stood out. Daniel Culp, a former boyfriend of Mengqi, revealed that she had reached out to him in late August 2019, just weeks before she disappeared. She asked for information about a divorce attorney. It was a crucial detail. It meant that Mongchi hadn't simply disappeared into the night. She was actively considering leaving Joseph. Detectives called Joseph back in for another round of questioning. This time their tone was sharper, less accommodating.
I got to relax and at the same time.
Wait a minute. You got to relax. Your wife is missing. You're now the sole caregiver of a 1-year-old child. And you went on a relaxing drive? I gotta tell you, that strikes me as strange, and I don't think I'm alone in that. I think Alan here would probably agree with that. I think 99 out of 100 people on the street would say, that's not the time to relax. I mean, you haven't even told anybody, I don't know where my wife is.
Yeah.
I'm asking you to look at this from my standpoint, right?
Yeah.
Because I have a job to do. My job is to find Mengqi, right?
I understand. Yep.
For good or for bad, it's to find her.
That's right.
If she left on her own and she wants to stay gone, that's her right. But boy, if she didn't, we got a whole different situation, doesn't we?
Yeah.
If somebody did something to her, or if she accidentally did something to herself,
yeah,
we absolutely cannot stop until we find her. You understand that, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I want to help you guys as much as I can.
And I will not apologize for doing my job and asking difficult questions. You understand that too, right?
Yep.
Did you kill your wife?
No, I did not.
But detectives weren't convinced. The pieces weren't fitting together, and Joseph Elledge was looking more and more like the only person who knew the truth. Detective suspicions of Joseph Elledge were growing by the day. They obtained a search warrant for his cell phone, hoping it would shed light on his movements or his concern for his missing wife. Instead, what they found only deepened their unease. On October 9th, Joseph made no attempt to contact anybody about his wife's whereabouts. Not a single call, not a single message. It wasn't until the next day, after Mengqi's mother, Ren, began sounding the alarm, that Joseph reached out. He contacted his brother, Richard, asking if he had seen her. Soon after, somebody identified as Dewey messaged Joseph, offering suggestions on how to track Mongchi down. But Joseph's responses revealed little urgency. Just 50 minutes later, he texted Richard again. Not about Mongchi, but to ask if he wanted to play online games. He then replied to Dewey, saying he contacted police and was exhausted. After that, Joseph got online and played video games with a relative. While his wife was missing, he was gaming. But the most damning discoveries weren't about what Joseph didn't do. They were about what he had been doing. On his phone, detectives uncovered hours of secret recordings Joseph had made of his wife. 10 hours in total. In June of 2019, one recording captured him coldly saying, "I'm ready to be done talking to you forever."
I don't like being married to you. I don't like living with you.
Just a month later, another recording. "I would like to discuss our relationship, and I'm kind of ready to discuss the end of it as well." Joseph bluntly told Mongchi he wanted a divorce.
I want to divorce you, okay? I want that to happen during this semester. I want it to happen soon. Sooner better, okay?
In his own words, "I'm open to joint custody if you're staying in America. Anna's not leaving America, I can tell you that." He then mocked her, saying he didn't like being married to her, didn't like living with her, and was eager for their relationship to end. He even made fun of her appearance. In other moments, he veered into threats. He pressured her to cooperate with a quick and cheap divorce, warning that if she refused, he would tell the court she had been abusive to him.
You find all those stories about men and or women, their spouse killed them, whatever, because you aren't trying to live peacefully with me. You want me to hurt somebody?
He even threatened her immigration status, telling her, "Should I mention in court that you're abusive to me? Should I ask them to deport you?" In another recording, Joseph told Mongchi he would stop sponsoring her for citizenship, promising she would be deported while he stayed in America with Anna.
You'll probably get deported. Anna's mine. So I don't know. Are you going to play nice? Are you going to try and play good? Obviously, I'm not going to represent you to stay in America anymore. But Anna's not leaving America. I can't tell you that.
Only months later, Mongchi vanished. The most disturbing evidence of all didn't come from Joseph's secret recordings. It came from Mengqi herself. She too had been quietly recording her husband since 2018, capturing the dark reality of life inside their home. On October 29th, 2018, a year before her disappearance, Mongchi recorded nearly an hour-long rant. Joseph's voice thundered with anger as he said, "What are you trying to do? Are you trying to make me go crazy so that you can call police on me and take my fucking baby from me?" His fury spiraled and his threats escalated. "Do you want me to fucking break shit? Do you want me to hurt somebody?" The source of that argument was her parents. After Anna was born, Mengqi's mother and father had travelled from China to help for the first 100 days of the baby's life. Instead of gratitude, Joseph reacted with anger and hostility. "I don't want your mom here. Your mom is causing problems. Your mom should fucking leave." Mengqi, who was exhausted and recovering from childbirth, pushed back. She told him that she needed her mother's help to care for herself and their baby. Her reply was calm and defiant. "If I don't take care of my own body, my own health, it's not responsible for me or this family." But Joseph's hatred of her mother only deepened. He told her flatly, "I don't like that woman, and I don't think you should either." He seemed particularly annoyed whenever they spoke Chinese in the home, accusing them of speaking behind his back. Eventually, Mengqi's father returned to China, but her mother, Qi Ren, remained to help her daughter. That only fueled Joseph's anger. One afternoon, while Qi Ren was making dumplings for Joseph's birthday, a trivial dispute over a cutting board erupted into another rage-filled rant. Joseph's voice thundered through the recording. "Don't do my cutting board like that. I'm telling you, cutting board doesn't like that." The argument escalated until Joseph screamed at his wife that her mother needed to go. "There's going to be fucking problems if she tries staying. I'm going to make it fucking go away." Mengqi tried to reason with him. She told him he wasn't God, that he didn't understand. His response was chilling. "I am a fucking God. I say Mom don't stay here, she don't stay here." The rant grew uglier, with Joseph belittling her as a woman, telling her she was incapable, that she was only empowered because of society. And then, perhaps most disturbingly, he launched into a bizarre monologue. "You know how I conquer nature? I fucking kill it. I grab its head and break its fucking neck. That's how you conquer fucking nature." Through these recordings, the truth was undeniable. Mongchi was living in a marriage marked by control, intimidation, and abuse. And Joseph Elledge, who police now suspected of far worse, seemed determined to assert power over her at any cost. After that explosive argument about her mother, Mengqi did something desperate. She picked up the phone and called Joseph's mother, Jean Geringer. Jean lived 2 hours away, but she came immediately, hoping to mediate the situation. On a recording Mongchi made that night, she can be heard telling Jean, "I have no choice, I had to call you, I'm sorry. He's gonna come back and just, I don't know, unpredictable things are gonna happen." Jean told her daughter-in-law that she wasn't there to take sides. She was simply there to offer advice and guidance. But Joseph didn't back down, even with his own mother in the room.
Do I just smack her? Do I just beat her down?
You wanted to.
I have that craving. I'll admit that, yes.
You can't.
I'm not going to, though.
Go there.
The confrontation eventually cooled, and Joseph even apologised. But despite tradition and despite Mongchi's pleas, he forced Ki Ren to return to China before the 100 days of help were up. On October 25th, 2019, just 2 weeks after Mongchi vanished, police escalated her case from a missing person to a criminal investigation. Detectives believe that Joseph Elledge had killed his wife. They just needed enough evidence to prove it. That same day, officers arrived at Joseph's apartment. What they found raised immediate alarm. Joseph was outside in a car with his daughter Anna and his mother Jean. Their bags were packed. It looked like they were preparing to flee. Detectives arrested him on the spot. Jean spoke with an officer as her son was arrested.
We were expecting this. Yeah, we knew it. Protocol.
At that point, detectives didn't yet have enough to charge Joseph with murder. Instead, they arrested him on child abuse and neglect charges. When detectives had sat down with Mengqi's mother, she revealed something deeply disturbing. She said that one night, Mongchi had noticed bruises on Anna's buttocks. When she confronted Joseph about them, he initially denied knowing how they got there. But when Mongchi threatened to take their daughter to the hospital, his story changed. Joseph admitted that one night, Anna wouldn't stop crying. In his words, he pinched her. Mongchi didn't report it to police because Joseph swore it would never happen again. But Ki Ren had proof. She showed detectives a photograph her daughter had taken of the bruises. When they searched Mengqi's iPad, they found the same images, along with others. Some were too small to see clearly, as though the full-size originals had been deleted. On her laptop, investigators found even more disturbing evidence. Full-sized photos and videos of Anna's injuries that were saved from her iPhone backup. One of the photographs matched exactly the one that Mengqi had sent her mother. With this evidence, prosecutors increased the charges. Joseph was now facing first-degree child endangerment. His bond was set at $500,000. Jean, his mother, was given custody of Anna. When questioned, Joseph admitted to causing the bruises, but insisted they only came from a pinch. Medical experts disagreed. The injuries were consistent with being struck, not pinched. With Joseph behind bars, detectives executed a search warrant on the couple's apartment. Inside, they found a bag that belonged to Joseph. Stuffed inside were written notes, statements almost identical to the ones he had given investigators. There were also handwritten reminders to himself. One note instructed, refer to Mongchi in the present tense, not the past tense. And then detectives discovered something darker. Another page was titled simply, Grievances. Underneath, Joseph had listed all the reasons he hated his wife. One said, Mongchi is toxic, and I thoroughly believe she enjoys poisoning other people. It was a disturbing window into Joseph's mindset, and to detectives, it was one more sign pointing to a calculated, controlling man who may have already silenced his wife forever. As the investigation pressed forward, another battle began, this one over the custody of Anna. At the time, Anna was living with Joseph's mother, Jean, but Mengqi's parents had flown all the way from China to Missouri, determined to care for their granddaughter. They argued that it was in Anna's best interest to live with them, and that it was exactly what Mengqi would have wanted. In a statement their attorney wrote, Jean Elledge continues to withhold information from Mengqi's parents and fail to inform them of the pending case for guardianship of their granddaughter. There was also the troubling detail that when Joseph was arrested, bags were packed, and Jean was right there with him in the car, seemingly preparing to flee with Anna. In the end, both sides reached an agreement. Shared custody between Jean and Mengqi's parents and a no-contact order between Joseph and his daughter. Meanwhile, the search for Mongchi pressed forward. Detectives turned their attention to Joseph's movements in the days after she disappeared. He had given a detailed account of where he claimed he had driven, telling police he was out looking for hiking trails. But cell phone data told a different story. Yes, his phone had pinged off towers in the areas he had mentioned, but then it deviated. Instead of heading home after Rockport, his phone data showed him travelling west, towards Boonville, and later to the area of Highway 41 and the Lamine River. He stayed in that area for roughly 45 minutes before turning back east and heading home. To detectives, the detour was damning. Joseph had never been to these locations before, and both areas sat directly on the Missouri River. Perfect places, they feared, for a body to be dumped and swept away. Investigators quickly deployed cadaver dogs to the Lamine River near Highway 41. The dogs hit on the scent of human decomposition in the water. Divers were called in, but the task was nearly impossible. Visibility was poor, debris clogged the river. The next day, detectives brought in heavy machinery, using a boom truck and dredging bucket to remove logs and flood debris before sending divers back in. Still, there was no sign of Mengqi. With deer hunting season beginning, detectives turned to the community. They urged hunters and landowners to check their trail cameras for any suspicious activity from October 8th to October 11th. By December, the search was still centred on the river. Detectives were convinced that Joseph had killed his wife and left her there. They explained the grim reality. A body can sink if it's weighted, or if water fills the lungs. But as decomposition sets in, gases build up, causing the body to resurface. Currents, though, can move it miles downstream. Investigators focused their efforts on the easternmost bridge, piling under Highway 41, just north of Interstate 70's, exit 98. But no matter how hard they searched, they couldn't find Mongchi. And in the meantime, Joseph's legal trouble escalated. He was already facing trial for child abuse and endangerment. In January, his attorney John O'Connor requested that the trial be moved, claiming substantial media buzz would prevent a fair hearing. Judge Brock Jacobs denied the move, but allowed for an outside jury to be brought in. And then just a month later, in February, prosecutors made their move. Even without a body, Joseph Elledge was officially charged with murder. Detectives believed that Joseph had suffocated or strangled Mongchi, possibly while giving her a massage. There was no blood, no sign of a violent struggle, and no defensive wounds on Joseph himself. The motive, they speculated, was simple and disturbing. He simply didn't want to go through with the divorce. Joseph Elledge pleaded not guilty. In April, detectives announced a new tactic. They were building a levee into the Lamine River to aid in the search for Mongchi's body. For weeks, crews inched forward. Mud sucked at boots, spring rains clawed back their progress. Still, they kept going. They searched all the way up until December. Then came the announcement that nobody wanted to hear. The river search was being called off. On land, the legal machinery was grinding forward. Prosecution and defence teams were busy preparing for the upcoming trial. Prosecutors knew that the road ahead would be steep without a body. No body convictions are notoriously difficult. Without remains, you can't prove cause or even manner of death. Time of death is guesswork. Physical evidence is scarce. Defence attorneys can argue reasonable doubt at every turn. Maybe the person left voluntarily. Maybe they met an accident elsewhere. Maybe there's simply not enough proof someone is dead, let alone murdered. In those cases, the state lives and dies on circumstantial evidence, timelines, behaviour and motive. But then on the 25th of March, everything changed. A man named Stephen Roberts was hiking in an isolated area off South Rock Quarry Road in Rockbridge Memorial State Park, not far from the trail where Joseph had once proposed to Mongchi. The woods there are quiet, the kind of quiet that makes things. The woods there are quiet, the kind of quiet that makes small things stand out. While hiking, a rectangular object caught Stephen's eye. out of place among roots and leaves. He moved closer. It was a purse. And then he spotted something else. A human skull face down in the earth. Stephen immediately called police. Within hours, the isolated trail wasn't isolated anymore. Detectives, crime scene investigators, and evidence technicians converged on the site. As they carefully combed the area, they found more human remains near the skull. Some bones were missing, including the right arm and right leg. Inside the purse, they found Mongchi's driver's license, her credit and bank cards. The remains were transported to the medical examiner's office. DNA testing confirmed what detectives already knew. They had just found Mongchi. At the lab, the bones were analysed. A portion of her fourth rib was fractured. Another portion of that rib was missing. On the left side, ribs 4 through 6 showed complete fractures near the spine. The sequence of breaks mattered. The pathologist believed they were not likely caused by animals scattering remains. Instead, he concluded that they were consistent with blunt force trauma. It was devastating, but it brought a measure of clarity. And for Mongchi's family, a difficult kind of peace. Their attorney, Amy Saladay, released a statement that read in part, "As parents of a missing child, they always hoped for their daughter's return and for this to be a bad dream. At the same time, they have wanted answers about what happened to Mengqi, and this information now gives them some closure and a body, so that a funeral can be planned for some time in the future." The murder trial of Joseph Elledge began on the 2nd of November 2021. During opening statements, Joseph's defence attorney, Scott Rosenblum, called Mongchi's death a tragic accident. For the first time, their full theory emerged. He said that during an argument, which was sparked by Joseph's belief that Mongchi was having an affair, she pushed him. He shoved her back, she fell and hit her head. According to Joseph, she got up and went to bed, and he found her dead there the next morning. The defence attributed her death to a subdural hematoma, a build-up of blood on the brain. Prosecutor Dan Knight refuted this. He told the jury that Joseph had abused Mongchi throughout their marriage, and that Joseph and his mother had worked in tandem to keep Mongchi compliant, to make sure she did what Joseph wanted.
The evidence in this case is going to be that Mongchi was a great mother. She loved Anna with everything she had. After she gave birth to Anna, the defendant, you're going to hear multiple recordings where the defendant would threaten her and abuse her, call her names, things like this. And this went on for about a year, all the way up until the time the defendant killed Mongchi on October 8th of 2019 when Anna was 1 year old.
He played a recording in which Joseph criticised Mongchi for eating like a pig, swore at her repeatedly, and belittled her mother. At one point, Joseph had asked, "Do you want me to leave? I'll leave and never come back. I'm not happy here." On the recording, Mongchi could be heard sobbing. Knight then told the jury the defendant thought that the hierarchy of human beings was where men were always superior to women. He told the jury about the grievances list found on Joseph's notes and the script he drafted about what to say to detectives. Testimony then began. Jurors listened to 9 hours of audio recordings between Joseph and Mongchi from the 10 months before she disappeared. The couple had often given each other massages as a way to be intimate, but even those moments had become rare, and by Joseph's own words in one recording, unsatisfying to him. Then came the technical evidence. Cell phone data plotted Joseph's movements after Mongchi vanished, maps that placed him in the area of South Rock Quarry Road, the very place where her remains would later be found. It had rained on the day he drove out there. Investigators searched the apartment on the 17th of October. Police photographed muddy boots and collected them as evidence. At trial, Will Randall of the Missouri Highway Patrol Crime Lab testified that soil from those boots was similar to soil at the site where Mongchi's body was found. Another expert testified that juniper needles recovered from the boots and from the gravesite were also a match. Pathologist Keith Norton told the jury he couldn't establish a precise time of death due to the passage of time and the condition of the remains, but he confirmed that her death was caused by another person. He also said it was highly unlikely that the pattern of broken ribs had come from a simple fall. On the 9th of November, the courtroom fell silent as Joseph Elledge took to the stand. He described a turbulent relationship. He said that he and Mongchi communicated differently because of their backgrounds and cultures, claiming he spoke in metaphors she didn't understand, while she raised unrelated past events during arguments that spiraled. He told the jury he sometimes perceived misunderstandings as attacks because it was difficult to understand each other. He spoke about the period when Mengqi's parents came from China to help with the baby. I felt very isolated and like I was being pushed out of my own home. By 2019, he said he'd begun contemplating divorce. Their intimacy had dwindled, and in October he claimed he discovered Mongchi had been having an emotional affair with a man in China on WeChat. They argued on the 8th of October 2019, he said.
She pushed me once or twice and before I pushed her back.
Well, you say you pushed her back. Was it just a gentle push?
No, it was hard.
How hard? Tell the jury how hard you pushed her back.
It was very hard.
She did. You remember?
She ran into the kitchen counter.
And when she hit the kitchen counter, did you know whether she was hurt?
She kind of screamed about it.
Did she come back at you?
Yes, she did. Very quickly.
Very quickly. So this is happening in, a blink of an eye?
Yes.
Were you choreographing it? Were you figuring out every move? Or was it just happening in the blink of an eye?
It was just happening.
And when she was hit on the counter and she came at you again, what was your reaction then?
I pushed her again.
Hard?
Hard.
What happened then?
Probably even harder. She fell down.
Her hit anything?
She fell. She fell in the kitchen, and her head hit with a big thud. I felt it.
According to Joseph, Mongchi went to bed, and when he woke the next morning, she was dead. He admitted he put her body in the trunk of the car and waited almost 2 days before driving to Rockbridge State Park with their daughter. There, he said he dug a grave and buried her. Prosecutor Knight challenged that version directly. He suggested that Joseph had killed Mongchi while giving her a massage, an intimate routine turned lethal. He asked, "Do you want to tell the jury how you really killed your wife, Joe?" He revealed that urine was found on the bed sheets, noting that people often urinate while being killed by asphyxiation.
Did you hit her with a toolbox real hard, just come down straight on that back?
No.
Did you maybe stand up on top of her and jump on top of her back?
No.
Did you suffocate her?
No.
Did you strangle her or cause her to urinate on the bed?
No.
You admitted there was urine on that bed, correct?
Yes.
You killed her on that bed.
Objection, argumentative, Your Honor.
Overruled. No.
The defense floated an alternative explanation, that wild animals could have broken Mengqi's ribs after death. The prosecution countered with the pathologist's assessment. The sequence and location of the fractures were far more consistent with force applied by a person than with post-mortem animal activity. And with that, the two competing narratives stood in stark relief. A fatal fall after a shove, or a deliberate killing carried out in the privacy of a home where fear and control had been documented for months. The trial drew to a close, and with it came the final words from both sides. Prosecutor Dan Knight stood before the jury and described Joseph Elledge as nothing less than a stone-cold killer. He reminded them of the damning audio recordings they had listened to throughout the trial, in which Joseph belittled, insulted and threatened his wife over and over again. Knight told the jury that these tapes revealed the true character of Joseph, a man who sought to control Mengqi and who ultimately silenced her forever. He urged them to hold him accountable, to find him guilty of first-degree murder. The defence, however, tried to paint a different picture. Joseph's attorney, Scott Rosenblum, acknowledged that his client was awkward, that he made dumb decisions, and that his actions in the day after Mongchi's disappearance were deeply suspicious. But he insisted that Joseph never intended to kill his wife. He argued that what happened wasn't murder, but a tragic accident, and that Joseph's flaws as a husband didn't make him a killer. When the jury retired to deliberate, there was a heavy tension in the courtroom. Hours dragged on, almost 7 in total, before the word finally came back that the jury had reached a verdict. The verdict was then read aloud. Guilty of second-degree murder. He was acquitted of the more serious charge of first-degree murder. The jury then recommended a maximum sentence of 28 years in prison, and while the final decision would rest with the judge, the sentence couldn't exceed the jury's recommendation. On the 7th of January 2022, everybody returned to court for sentencing. Mongchi's parents weren't there, but her friend Louise Hall provided a victim impact statement.
I still can hear her laughing, her voice, her lovely face, I still can see that. So this is really painful to me. He want us to, he kind of play with us. He told us Mengqi was gone because she was a bad mother. She left her baby away. He wanted us to think Mengqi is a bad person. So this really hurt us a lot. And especially what he did to Mengqi.
The judge then handed down the maximum punishment allowed, 28 years behind bars. It was a number that felt both heavy and, to some, insufficient. Outside the courtroom, Mongchi's family, represented by their attorney, Amy Saladay, spoke to the waiting cameras. Her husband received 1 year for every year of her life. This doesn't bring her back. It doesn't make the nightmare of waking up every day and not being able to talk or see your child go away, but it is justice in terms of what the American court system can provide. In February of 2022, Joseph Elledge returned to court to resolve the remaining charges against him. He pleaded guilty to child abuse and endangerment, stemming from the injuries he had inflicted on his daughter, Anna. The judge ordered him to serve an additional 10 years on top of his 28-year sentence for Mengqi's murder. The case marked the end of a long chapter for prosecutor Dan Knight, who had guided the investigation and trial from the earliest days of Mengqi's disappearance. On the 4th of June 2022, just months after the trial concluded, news broke that Knight had been found dead in his home. He had taken his own life. Well, that is it for this episode of Morbidology. As always, thank you so much for listening, and I'd like to say a massive thank you to my newest supporters up on Patreon: Kalia, Rebecca, Chris, Justin, and Kelly. Your support up on there seriously goes such a long way, and I am eternally grateful. In exchange for your support, I upload ad-free and early release episodes of Morbidology, and I also upload behind the scenes, which includes bonus audio, videos, and case files. This episode actually has a whole bunch of bonus videos into the investigation that I received via a Freedom of Information request, so head on over there if you're interested. I also upload bonus episodes of Morbidology Plus that aren't on the regular podcast platforms, and these are also available on Apple subscriptions as well. Remember to check us out at morbidology.com for more information about this episode and to read some true crime articles. Until next time, take care of yourselves, stay safe, and have an amazing week.